Then they went into the mental hospitals. And you know, there is not much more that's more brutal than a back ward in a mental hospital before psychiatric drugs. I worked at the Douglas Hospital in Montreal after deinstitutionalization, but before some of the long-term back wards patients had passed away. And I remember taking my younger brother down into the tunnels that connected the hospital buildings on the Douglas Hospital campus, which was kind of like a university. And it was like Dante's Inferno down there, man. You can't imagine how damaged those people were. 30 years on a back ward in a locked psychiatric clinic. Jesus, imagine being manic or schizophrenic under those conditions. Locked in a straitjacket maybe for 20 years, maybe in agony. You just can't imagine what that would be like for decades. And the Nazis basically said that. They said, Jesus, you know, if you guys went into those back wards, you'd think death is preferable. And plus, you know, it's not like it's cheap to keep those people alive in their desperate suffering. And we could spend that money on the typical thing that, you know, implicitly psychopathic murderers pretend to spend money on, like education. And so, away the Germans went and cleaned up the asylums. And then, well, then the disabled were sort of next on the list, because it turned out they were kind of expensive too and inconvenient. And you're going to be expensive and inconvenient at some point. You're probably that already. And you know, you'll probably be expensive, inconvenient, and desperate at some point too. Highly probable. Most people have, many people have at least one episode of severe depression in their life. You know, and severe depression will make you suicidal. That's one of its cardinal symptoms. And one of the accompanying thoughts that characterizes severe depression is, everyone would be better off without me. And you know, you can think about that as self-pitying, but, and sometimes it is. You know, that's usually accompanied by kind of delusional notions about how sad and hurt everyone will be at the funeral and how sorry they'll be for picking on you. And that's not depression. That's narcissistic neuroticism. Depression is accompanied by the genuine belief that you're pretty damn useless and everyone around you would be better off without you. And I'm sure many of you have thought that at some point in your life already. And are you so sure that you wouldn't have called up the friendly Trudeau government and had them give you a hand just at that point? I think it's 30,000 people we've already managed to dispense with in this country. As I said already, you know, Canada's international reputation is in tatters and we're just getting going. So it's complicated, you know. Now you might ask yourself, well, how did we handle this before medically assisted death? And the answer is, physicians and family members bore the burden on their own conscience, you know, and it wasn't uncommon, but it wasn't publicly discussed, let's say, that, you know, at some point you decide to take grandpa off his heart medication. Or maybe, you know, great-grandma's got Alzheimer's and she's in excruciating pain, and the physician provides a little more opiate than is strictly necessary. And, you know, everybody just takes that burden on themselves very, very carefully and cautiously, and it's the family, to the degree that anybody has the right to make that decision, it's the family that has the right and the responsibility. You know, now I'm not arguing for the propriety of, you know, your personal physician-aided opiate overdose. The devil's in the details all the time, but I don't trust the people who can't get you a passport in 2 weeks to decide whether or not grandma gets to live.